In a world fractured by conflict, where empires rose and fell like tides, a new power was stirring. From the dust of the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum, a small Turkish beylik, or principality, would defy all odds, growing to become one of the most powerful and enduring empires in history. This is the story of the rise of the Ottoman Empire, a saga of ambition, faith, and conquest that would reshape the world. The late 13th century was a time of chaos and opportunity. The Byzantine Empire, once the undisputed master of the East, was a shadow of its former self, its territories fragmented, and its authority waning. To the east, the mighty Mongol Ilkhanate held sway, but its power was also beginning to fracture. Into this power vacuum stepped a group of august Turkic tribesmen, led by a chieftain named Osman I. Osman was a man of vision and pragmatism. From his small domain around the town of Skut in northwestern Anatolia, he began a campaign of expansion, not against powerful Muslim neighbors, but against the vulnerable Byzantine frontier. He was a Ghazi, a warrior for the faith of Islam, and this identity attracted followers from across the Turkish world, men eager for glory, land, and purpose. These early Ottomans were not just raiders, they were state builders. Osman's son, Orhan, continued his father's work with remarkable success. In 1326, he captured the strategic city of Bursa, a major Byzantine provincial capital. This was a turning point. Bursa was not just a military prize. It became the first Ottoman capital, a center of administration and culture. Orhan established the first Ottoman mint, created a standing army, and began to build the institutions that would transform a nomadic chiefdom into a settled state. The fall of Bursa sent shockwaves through the region. The Ottomans were no longer a minor nuisance on the frontier. They were a rising power. Orhan's gaze then turned across the Sea of Marmara towards Europe. A Byzantine civil war provided the perfect opportunity. Invited as mercenaries by one of the Byzantine claimants, Ottoman forces crossed the Dardanelles in 1354 and established their first permanent foothold on European soil at Gallipoli. The gateway to the Balkans was now wide open. Under Orhan's successor, Murad I, the expansion into Europe began in earnest. City after city in the Balkans fell to the Ottoman advance. Murad was a brilliant military commander and a shrewd statesman. He established the famed Janissary Corps, an elite infantry unit composed of Christian boys taken as attacks, converted to Islam, and trained to be fanatically loyal to the Sultan alone. This professional army gave the Ottomans a decisive edge over the feudal levies of their European opponents. The Christian powers of the Balkans, divided by their own rivalries, struggled to mount a unified defense. In 1389, at the fateful Battle of Kosovo, a coalition of Balkan forces, led by Serbian Prince Lazar, confronted Murad's army. Though Murad himself was assassinated during the battle, his son Bayezid I secured a crushing victory. The battle broke the back of Serbian resistance and cemented Ottoman control over much of the Balkans. The cross was yielding to the crescent. The rise of the Ottoman state was not merely a story of military conquest. It was the birth of a vibrant and complex civilization. As their empire grew, the Ottomans became patrons of art, architecture, and learning. From the humble beginnings in Skut, a sophisticated imperial culture began to blossom. The early capitals, Bursa and later Aden, were transformed into magnificent cities. Sultans commissioned the construction of sprawling mosque complexes, which included not just places of worship, but also schools, madrasas, hospitals, Darut Sifas, and public kitchens, imrits. These complexes were the heart of Ottoman urban life, providing essential services to the populace and showcasing the piety and generosity of the ruler. The architecture blended Seljuk, Byzantine, and Persian influences into a uniquely Ottoman style, characterized by grand domes, slender minarets, and intricate tile work. The Ottoman court became a center for poets, scholars, and theologians. The sultans themselves were often highly educated men, composing poetry, and studying history and theology. They fostered a legal and administrative system based on Islamic law Sharia, but also incorporating customary law canon to govern their diverse, multi-ethnic, and multi-religious empire. This pragmatism was a key to their success. Non-Muslim communities, known as millets, were granted a significant degree of autonomy. The Greek Orthodox, Armenian, and Jewish communities were allowed to govern their own affairs, use their own language, and practice their own religion, as long as they paid their taxes and accepted the Sultan's authority. This system, while not one of modern equality, allowed for a relatively stable and cosmopolitan society to flourish under Ottoman rule. Trade prospered, with merchants from Venice, Genoa, and across the Islamic world flocking to Ottoman cities. The empire became a crucial bridge between East and West, controlling key trade routes and growing wealthy from the commerce that flowed through its lands. The architect of the empire's most dramatic expansion was Mehmed II, ascending to the throne in 1451. He was a man of singular, all-consuming ambition. The conquest of Constantinople, the city, the once mighty capital of the Byzantine Empire, was now a pale reflection of its former glory, a small Christian island in a sea of Ottoman territory. Yet, its symbolic importance and strategic location were immense. To possess it was to claim the legacy of the Roman Caesars. Mehmed was a true Renaissance prince, a genius of strategy, engineering, and logistics. He prepared for the siege with meticulous care. On the shores of the Bosphorus, he constructed a massive fortress, Rumelihisari, to cut off any potential aid to the city from the Black Sea. He commissioned a Hungarian engineer, Orban, to cast enormous cannons, including the Great Turkish Bombard, a monster of a weapon capable of hurling stone balls, weighing over half a ton, against the city's legendary Theodosian walls. In the spring of 1453, Mehmed's vast army, numbering over 80,000 men, laid siege to Constantinople. The city's defenders, a mere 7,000 strong, fought with desperate courage under the command of the last Byzantine emperor, Constantine XI Palaiologos. For 53 days, they held out against relentless bombardment and repeated assaults. Mehmed's most audacious move was to bypass the Great Chain protecting the Golden Horn Harbour. In a feat of incredible engineering and manpower, he had his ships dragged overland on greased logs, relaunching them inside the harbour and outflanking the city's naval defences. The final, all-out assault began on May 29th. The Janissaries breached the ancient walls, and the city that had stood for over 1,000 years finally fell. Mehmed rode into the city, now to be known as Istanbul, and went to the Hagia Sophia, the greatest church in Christendom. He ordered it converted into a mosque, a powerful symbol of the new order. The conquest was complete. Mehmed was no longer just a sultan. He was Fatih, the conqueror. The fall of Constantinople was an event that shook the foundations of the world. For Christendom, it was a cataclysm, the end of an era. The last vestige of the Roman Empire was gone, and the gateway to Europe seemed to have been thrown wide open to an unstoppable force. The news sparked panic and calls for a new crusade, though a unified response never materialized. For the Islamic world, it was a moment of profound triumph. A prophecy attributed to the Prophet Muhammad, foretelling the conquest of the city by a Muslim leader, had been fulfilled. The Ottoman Sultan was now seen as the preeminent leader of the Muslim world, the champion of the faith. The conquest solidified the Ottoman Empire's status as a global superpower. Strategically, the capture of Istanbul was a masterstroke. It unified the Ottoman Empire's European and Asian territories, giving them control over the vital trade routes between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. The city, renamed and rebuilt, would become the magnificent capital of a vast empire, a bustling metropolis of trade, culture, and power for centuries to come. The conquest also triggered an exodus of Greek scholars and intellectuals to Italy, carrying with them ancient manuscripts and knowledge that helped fuel the burgeoning Renaissance in Western Europe. The end of one empire helped accelerate the dawn of a new age in another. From a small Anatolian principality to the masters of Constantinople, the rise of the Ottoman Empire in less than 2 centuries was nothing short of meteoric. Their success was not a matter of chance, but the result of a unique combination of factors. Visionary leadership, from the pragmatic Osman to the brilliant Mehmed II, provided the driving force. A formidable and modern military, centered on the elite janissaries, provided the muscle. Religious fervor, the Ghazi spirit, gave them a powerful ideological motivation that attracted warriors from across the Turkish and Muslim world. Yet, this was tempered by a remarkable pragmatism in governance. Their willingness to adopt and adapt Byzantine and other administrative practices, and their millet system for ruling over diverse populations, allowed them to consolidate their conquests and build a stable, enduring state. The legacy of this rapid rise is etched into the geography and culture of 3 continents. They transformed Anatolia and the Balkans, redrawing the political and demographic map. They established an empire that would stand for over 600 years, shaping the course of history in Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. The rise of the Ottomans was not just the story of a new empire. It was the story of a new world order born in the crucible of faith and fire, a legacy that continues to resonate to this day.